Yo, yes, I just closed the door in dramatic effect to start the video. So, as you can see, I'm in my car, okay? My car with no AC. I'm in here with my, stuff of clothes in there because I don't have a washer dry machine. So I've been going to my parents' house and, washing my clothes. And I got my bags in the back. Now, my coach was a G and he gave me some heavy bags. So I got one right here and I got one in the trunk. Let's go. Isn't that sick? Anyways, let's get to the point of the video. I wanted to go over how Muay Thai has completely changed the scope of my life and how it has affected me with my self-confidence and how, it has allowed me to improve as a man and just become more confident in myself. And so I'm 23 years old right now, and I just want to go over like how I felt in the past, all throughout school, all throughout my entire life since I was, heading up until like 19 years old. I have always been a very unconfident, insecure man. And it was very unfortunate, I have no idea why, but I've always been like that. All throughout middle school, I could not hold a conversation with anybody. I could not maintain eye contact with anybody. I couldn't even speak to a girl. I feel like I was always trying to, fake it to fit in, you know what I mean? And it was just, I was never myself. And going into high school, I was picked on, I was always made fun of for my woman hips. I always had a lot of fat that went straight to my hips. I was, very self-conscious about myself and how I looked, my appearance. And I just feel like a lot of time I was so scared of confrontation. I was so scared of speaking to somebody and maintaining eye contact with somebody and actually just having that confidence to be able to hold a conversation with somebody. And it just drives me crazy, I feel like the entire time throughout high school, I wouldn't even speak to any girls because I just didn't know what to say, or I couldn't even stick up for myself. Like, for example, I'm gonna tell you guys a story, and I always go back to this story. I think it was sophomore year, and I was kind of like goofing off with my friends. We were at the lunch table, and I think one of my friends pushed me, right, and I got pushed back into this guy, this basketball player, right, and I stepped on his shoes. Right, and I look back and it wasn't my fault. I had no intent to step back onto this guy's shoes, and I turned around and I look up at the guy, and he looks at me, and I think he's like a senior. He was like a senior, and he told me to say sorry to his shoes. And in that moment, I was just completely frozen up. I had no idea what to say. I had no idea what to do. And of course, I'm a sophomore, right? He's a senior. He's a bigger guy than me. He's a basketball player. First of all, this guy's like 6'4", 6'3", but at the time, I just had no confidence in myself. I had no way to hold myself to a standard to be able to defend myself and stick up for myself. And it was very embarrassing. I believe, I don't quite remember, but I think I did look down at his shoes and I said sorry. And I always hold myself to that standard where it's like, damn, I was that scared to be able to say sorry to somebody's shoes. You know what I mean? Like, what type of man does that make me? What type of, person does that make me? And it's just like, I've always been so confused and unconfident when it comes to situations, especially with confrontation, where ever since then, I've always been so scared of it, several times, I just never knew what to say, how to handle myself. And, it was like that all throughout high school. A lot of times throughout high school and stuff, I even faked it to fit in. I would try to be somebody that I wasn't. I would try to say things that I wasn't, and would say, like, I would cuss a lot. And shoot, like, I cuss now, but not as much as I would do before. And, I feel like I just never was myself. I was very insecure and I was very unconfident and overweight. And I would always constantly get made fun of. But when I lived in Cali and I finally made the move down here to Florida, and I found a Muay Thai gym, Vortex Muay Thai, I decided to take the step of putting myself in those uncomfortable situations. And that was Muay Thai. I came to the gym. I walked into the gym and I was scared shitless. I tell you what, I was so scared. Okay. I just didn't know what I was expecting. You know, I was about to go into a situation where I had to defend myself, where I had to, where there was a lot of pressure on me. And especially, you know, just walking to the gym is always intimidating. It's always an intimidating factor, especially when you're a newbie, when you're a beginner. And I remember walking in and, you know, being so scared and being so insecure about like how I looked and how I fought and how I shadow boxed and how I, you know, even had conversations with the guys around the gym and maintain eye contact with them. And even in public, going into public too, I couldn't do any of that, right? But by putting myself in the most uncomfortable situation imaginable, by putting myself in and learning Muay Thai, you know, a combat sport, it has allowed me to grow and adapt to become the man that I've always wanted to be. You know, now I feel like I'm myself. You know, I don't have to fake it to fit in. You know, I'm confident in myself. I'm able to be, you know, the fun, happy, smiling guy. I don't have to be intimidating. I don't have to be those certain aspects of a guy to prove myself. I just don't. You know, I always thought like, oh, I have to be intimidating. I have to be, you know, strong. I have to be, you know, I have to always have a mean face and play nonchalant and be like that. No, I do not have to be like that. I could be myself. And with Muay Thai, I have discovered myself and how I actually, you know, am. With learning Muay Thai, you know, I have put myself in uncomfortable situations of taking hard spars, you know, going and taking fights, you know, winning IKF Muay Thai Championship in 2021 and taking several fights after that. And, you know, I have built myself up and I have, you know, really, like, I had to dig deep in order to take fights and do that type of stuff, because I promise you, like, it was the most, you know, terrifying thing I could ever imagine is stepping into a cage or stepping into a ring and fighting another man. I couldn't, if you told my 17-year-old self, 18-year-old self, I tell you what, I'd be like, what? Prime stepped in a cage and fought somebody? That is bullshit, you know? But I did it, and I've you know, overcome my fear, okay? And of course, you know, with Muay Thai, I've been able to find myself and build confidence in myself and build confidence in speaking to, you know, women, which has allowed me to get with my beautiful girlfriend, Cameron. You know, she's my first girlfriend and she will be my future wife. You know, she's amazing, you know. And so, you know, I've allowed myself to push past those limits, push past those self-beliefs, and I have allowed myself to, you know, be built into the man I want to be with and through Muay Thai. You know, with striking, it has allowed me to build confidence in myself and my ability to be able to handle confrontations, or to be able to handle situations in a more, you know, unemotional way. You know what I mean? But yeah, you know, it completely has changed the scope of my life, and I'm so glad I discovered Muay Thai, and I cannot wait to keep, you know, learning and improving and teaching others as well, and, you know, learning myself as well. But, you know, I'm so glad that Muay Thai has completely changed my life, and, you know, I'm a more confident, I'm a more secure, I'm a more, you know, all around capable man to be able to handle myself now. You know, I never would have imagined myself to be the sort of guy that I am now. But yeah, love you guys. Yes, let me know if you guys, you know, experience self-doubt, you know, if you feel insecure, if you feel some sort of way. You know, I'm always here to communicate. I'm always here to talk to you. If you want to reach out to me in my DMs on Instagram, I'm always going to be here to respond to you guys, because I love y'all. I love you guys. So peace out. See you guys later.